Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, December 9th, 2024. New video about the first and the last, a subject that comes up when we talk with Trinitarians about whether or not the Bible teaches the Trinity or identifies Jesus as God in the way that is consistent with the Trinity. What Trinitarians attempt to do where it concerns the first and the last is take those words that Jesus utters in Revelation 1 and 2 and try and connect them with similar words used by God in Isaiah 44:6. There's another text where first and last comes up in Revelation 22:13 that we'll also get to. But it's very important that you understand from the start that the words spoken by Jesus in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8, we'll look at them in a moment, and by God in Isaiah 44:6, we'll look at them in a moment, are not the same. They're really not even close, except for one word. They're not even similar where it concerns the use of the Greek article. I'm talking about the Greek translation, of course, because Revelation is preserved for us best in Greek manuscripts. It looks to me and to many others that it was originally written in Hebrew or Aramaic, but the fact is we only have the Greek version from its earliest time. So we can't compare it with the Hebrew version of Isaiah. But we can compare it with the Greek version of Isaiah. And certainly if the Greek translator of Revelation understood the Hebrew version of Revelation in chapter 1 and chapter 2 to have Jesus using the same expression that God uses in the Hebrew of Isaiah 44:6, there's no reason to believe they wouldn't have translated it the same way that it was in the existing Greek text. But it is not the same, as I mentioned. So let me go ahead and bring up a comparative listing that will show you side by side the text in Revelation compared with the text in Isaiah 44. And I think you'll see very clearly there are some significant differences. Also, I'm going to be showing you the Greek text of Revelation from our best witness to the Greek text, Codex Alexandrinus from the 5th century. It's in the key text we're going to be talking about where Jesus uses first and last, Revelation 1:17 and 2:8. You're not going to find the reading of Codex Alexandrinus, our best witness to the Greek text of Revelation, in most, if not all, English translations. So keep that in mind. And now look at this chart or listing. First, look at the top left. You can see it says in English Revelation 1:17. And then transliteration of the Greek ha prototokos, which means the firstborn. That's why it says equals next to ha prototokos, upper left corner. And you can see the arrow pointing up to a part of a Greek text that's underlined. Now, it's not so easy to see. I've tried to give the best image I can. You can see over here on the right, above that arrow on the top, you can, whether you know Greek or not, if you just look at the last few words and you count over 5 letters from the far right, that's where the word prototokos begins. This is a P right here, what we would pronounce as a P, pi. And then right next to that is a rho. It actually looks like an English P, but it's a Greek R sounding word or letter. And then after that is the letter omega. So pi, rho, omega, tau, that's T, just like in English T. And then there's an omicron, prota. And actually the red line starts with the, what you can see is kind of looks like an O. That's the Greek article. But it doesn't show the breathing mark like you typically would see in a transliteration, like I'm showing you here in the English, ha. So it just has the omicron, and then the word or part of the word for prototikos that continues on to the next line. Now you can see it's kind of obscured. It's not so easy to make out all the letters, but you can see the final sigma. You can make out the kappa right here. I can see the omicron and then the tau here on the far left and the other omicron. So you can kind of make it out. And then right after that, you can make out the word chi. And so you can see that it extends it. It's not the word protos, right? Protos would just be one letter beyond what you see on that top right. It says prota. And then there would just be one letter on that next line if it was protos. But it's a whole word, prototikos. And then after that is chi, ha, eskatos, and the last. We'll get to that more in a moment. In fact, well, you can see it right next to it, but we're going to just focus on the first, okay? The first part of the description, first and last. Just look at the comparison between the first. In the best Greek witness we have of Revelation 1:17, it doesn't even say first, protos. It says prototikos, ha prototikos, the firstborn, which is directly related to Jesus' description in Revelation 1:4 and 5, where he's called the firstborn from the dead, just like in Colossians 1:18. It's a very common, well-known description for him. And here in Revelation 1:17, that is the exact same context. Him dying and coming to life. In both this text and in the one we're going to look at next, the only two undisputed texts, Revelation 1:17 and 2:8, where Jesus says, I am the first and last, or firstborn and last, according to Codex A. In both of those texts, he's talking about dying and coming to life again. So Revelation 1:17, in our best Greek witness, ha prototikos. In other Greek witnesses, it does say ha protos. But again, there's a disputed reading here. Revelation 2:8, once again, you can see Codex Alexandrinus. You can make out part of the word here, the red line in the upper right. Starts with ha again. And then pro, ta, and on the next line, kos, and then it's just all written continuously, chi. Can't really make out very clearly the word right after chi there, but it looks like it's ha eskatos. It's definitely skatos, so that looks like there's probably a omicron and an epsilon right here before that sigma. So again, Codex A, ha prototikos kai ha eskatos. In other Greek witnesses, ha protos kai ha eskatos. Right, and so then when we get to Revelation 22:13, you can see it's a little less clear. I mean, you can make it out. I'll show you how. But as you can see, you have to kind of look close. If I can make it a little bigger, I think it's just there. You can see right here. It's hard to tell. Right here, we have the word chi right here in the middle. And then this is supposed to be the word, right? Because you have the word alpha here. You can see that phi and alpha, and then chi. And then this is supposed to be where it's really blurry right here. Not easy, not blurry, but hard to read. Omega. And then right around here, is where there should be, I guess, the Greek article. I can't tell if the Greek article is here in Codex A. And here's where the Greek word for first is. It's not prototokos in Codex A, because the context in Revelation 22:13, unlike Revelation 2:8 and 1:17, where Jesus is clearly talking, Codex A uses firstborn there and there, but not here in Revelation 22. Now, that's because I believe in Revelation 22, you have an angel speaking for both God and for Jesus. Whereas in the opening 2 chapters, 3 really, of Revelation, it's Jesus talking directly to John. Right? He's like describing him and everything. But then, as Revelation 1:1 says, it's the angel, for the most part, speaking for both God and Jesus. And he even does that explicitly in Revelation 22 and corrects John, who thinks he really is Jesus or God, and starts to worship him. And the angel tells him no, right? Because he's talking just like Jesus or God. What they do, right? So in Revelation 22, that's what's happening. There's no discussion of him dying and coming to life again, like in these other 2 texts. So Revelation 22:13 is totally different context, and it has a totally different reading than both Revelation 1:17 and 2:8 in our best witness to the book of Revelation in Greek. And, I noticed here also, whereas both of these, 1:17 and 2:8, use the article for eschatos. Let's go to that right now. You can see there's a difference, right? You can see Codex A, best Greek witness to Revelation, has a clear textual difference between Jesus' use of first and last, which is really firstborn and last, the firstborn and the last, and Revelation 22:13, where there's no context discussing life and death like Revelation 1:17 and 2:8, and where the angel is speaking for God and Jesus. It's the only time Alpha and Omega, first and last, are used together. Jesus doesn't use Alpha and Omega or beginning and end in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8. So that's also very curious, right? Why is he not using those other descriptions? And why does Codex A tell us he's saying he's the firstborn? And then in Revelation 22, you can see right here, right? So first, let me just show you again. In 1:17, we just looked at this for prototokos in Codex A. This is Codex A, Revelation 1:17 again, right here. We looked at how it says firstborn for the first part, not first. And then it says ha eschatos, right? We looked at that. We saw there's chi, ha, eschatos in the underline. Okay. Revelation 2:8, ha eschatos. There's chi, it looks like ha, and then eschatos. And then Revelation 22:13, it's hard to read. You can see at the end of that red line, that's a sigma. And then next to the left of that is an omicron. And then you can see a tau. And then it gets hard to read here. But this is the word eschatos. But look at the clear word next to the red arrow, to the right of the red arrow. It's chi, right? Let me make that a little bigger. I'm not so sure we have the article here. I don't think Codex A, look, Codex A does not use ha. It uses ha for 2:8. Right here, you can see here's chi, and then that's an omicron, and then here's a faded epsilon, and then sigma eschatos. Here's the article right there. And then on 17 also, 1:17, chi, ha, eschatos. But that's Jesus in a context of death and resurrection where he doesn't use Alpha and the Omega. And then when the angel's speaking for God and Jesus in Revelation 22:13, apart from anything having to do with his death and resurrection, it uses protos And I don't believe it uses the article for eschatos. It may not even for protos. Remember, it was hard to read. Like, look at that right here. Protos, it looks like prota. It's kind of faded there. Either way, then here it says kai, right? So look at the letters. See, I don't think the article's there. Here's the key, eschatos, sigma, omicron, tau. That kind of looks like a mu, but it's faded. It's an A, an alpha. And then here's the key. Here's the sigma, and here's the epsilon. Look, there's no article there. Codex A also does not use the Greek article for eschatos in Revelation 22:13, further differentiating the use of protos and eschatos in that text, 22:13, from prototikos, ha prototikos, and ha eschatos in 2:8 and 1:17. Right? I mean, so if you're reading Codex A, you're a Christian and you're reading Codex A, the best witness to Revelation, you're seeing Jesus in Revelation 1:17 say, I am the firstborn and the last. Ha prototikos, kai ha eschatos. Then you're seeing him say, in a context where he says, I was dead and came to life, right after that. Then just a few verses later in 2:8, he says, ha prototikos, kai ha eschatos again. Directly related to him dying and coming to life again. Then in 22:13, we get, I don't see the article here. It might be, but it's not before eschatos. We can see that clearly. So in 22:13, it appears we get protos. There's the tau. Looks like the omicron sigma are gone here. But you can see the pi, rho, omega, tau, protos, chi, eschatos. It just says first and last. It does not use the article. It's not a titular expression in that way, equal to what Jesus says in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8. It's not only equal to it in the titular sense Jesus uses it for his death and resurrection, it's not even the same first word. Protos and prototikos. Now, let me really blow your mind. If you thought that was significant, and it is, of course, it contextually and textually shows, if you're reading Codex A in the 5th century, our best witness to this text, book of the Bible, you're not going to see Jesus as the same as God as the first and the last. You're not even going to see Jesus as the first and the last. You're going to see him as the firstborn and the last, only in a context where he doesn't use it with Alpha and the Omega or beginning and end, and only does so in the context where he dies and comes to life. Something that in the non-amended text of Habakkuk 1:12 is impossible for God. Right? And then we get the non-use of the article for first and last in Revelation 22:13, as well as a different term used entirely, protos instead of prototikos, where nothing is said about death and resurrection, and where Alpha and the Omega, beginning and end, are used. I don't think there could be any more differences other than just the first part of prototikos. That's the only similarity between Revelation 1:17, 2:8, and 22:13 in Codex A, our best witness to Revelation. But look at the text that the Trinitarians have been lying to everybody about and claiming that Jesus in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8 is identifying himself with. God in Isaiah 44:6. Not even close. It's even more different than Revelation 1:17, 2:8, and 22:13 in Codex A. Look, Look at Isaiah 44:6, which these Trinitarian liars have been telling you in their mistranslations of their English Bibles, because they all read the same when they're not the same. Well, they may be actually a little bit more consistent with how the Hebrew reads. It says, I am first, and I am what is behind or after. So, maybe it's not so much that, but there's definitely a difference with the Greek reading that anyone translating the Bible in Revelation would know is not the same as the Greek reading of Isaiah 44:6. So something's got to be different here, at least a footnote, to show all these differences in our best witness to Revelation, and the differences even in non-Codex A texts that don't say firstborn in 1:17 and 2:8. Those readings and Isaiah 44:6, look, God doesn't say, I am the ha protos kai ha eschatos. Even if we say Jesus doesn't use firstborn, that our best witness to Revelation isn't correct. Let's just say in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8, like in most English Bibles, he says, I am the first and the last. Well, that would be ha protos kai ha eschatos. That's not what God says in Isaiah 44:6. He says, ego protos kai ego meta tauta. He not only doesn't use the article exactly like Revelation 22:13 in Codex A. He uses protos, which is consistent with Revelation 22:13 in Codex A and not with Codex A in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8. But look at the last part. He doesn't say ha eschatos or even eschatos. This isn't even directly related to any of those texts in Revelation. It's not only different in terms of the article from Jesus in Revelation 1:17 and 2:8. It doesn't even use the same last word. And maybe not even the same first and second words, right? If you're using Codex A, our best witness, it's got firstborn, where Isaiah 44:6 has protos versus prototokos. And it has the article, ha prototokos versus just protos. And it has ha eschatos, where in Isaiah 44:6, it doesn't have the article and uses meta tauta, after or with these. That's totally different from the last or last. So why are all these English Bibles, the Bible Hub and elsewhere, all saying the exact same thing and directly linking all these texts together? Because they're not as smart or as good as scholars as they want you all to think. This isn't that hard to find. It does take a little knowledge, but these are supposed to be our best scholars, right? The Bible translators and people who we're supposed to look up to. So why am I again having to point out all this stuff? Why does it take someone that they look down upon and claim doesn't know these texts and languages to tell you this text critical information that shows very clearly in our best Greek witness to Revelation, Jesus is not the first and the last. He's the firstborn and the last only in the context of his death and resurrection, apart from any use of Alpha and Omega or beginning and the end. Totally differentiated from first and last in Revelation 22:13 by the use and non-use of the article and the first term protos versus prototokos. None of those texts are the same as Isaiah 44:6. The only one that comes close is Revelation 22:13, which isn't Jesus explicitly talking, or even in the same context as Revelation 1:17, 2:8. It doesn't use the article, just like 22:13 for protos, but it's totally different even on the second part. It's so different, everyone. I don't think it really has anything to do with any of the texts in Revelation, right? How hard would it have been, top right, for any Greek scribe to just write ego meta tauta. If that's what Revelation 1:17, 2:8, 20, or 22:13 was referring to. So I'm going to create a separate tract. I'll put on the cwjaw.org site a new series of tracts, apologetic tracts we'll use to try to help our Trinitarian and other friends who are confused. But I hope that helps you understand better. And you can screen capture the image if you want before I put the track up. It shows very clearly, everyone. If you're reading Codex A, our best Greek witness to Revelation, you're not going to identify Jesus as the first and last, not only in Revelation, because he's the firstborn and the last. You're not going to identify him with Isaiah 44:6, no matter whether it's Codex A or any other codex of Greek, because none of them say what Isaiah 44:6 says. Ego protos kai, ego meta tauta. And it's not even close to the same context. In Isaiah 44:6, he's talking about there being no other God besides him in terms of the idols that we know about, right? Talked all about this. Not talking about the gods whom God and Jesus call sons of God, or they're sons of God called gods. It doesn't break the scripture. Psalm 82, John 10. But in Isaiah, he's so clearly emphasizing his godship above everything, right? Yet in Revelation, when Jesus uses first and last apart from Alpha and the Omega, beginning and end, Revelation 1:17, 2:8, in the context only of his death and resurrection, best witness Codex A says firstborn. Yeah, in the context of him doing that, he has a God. Revelation 3, 2, and 12, several times, even refers to the name of that God being written on us. Yeah, so you should know that name. Now, I don't know how much clearer it could be, everybody. These people are lying to everybody, and they're bad Bible translations, whether it's the King James, Revelation 1:11, totally adding a text to the book of Revelation that confuses millions of people, or these people's failure to properly translate the differences between the Greek text and context of Isaiah 44:6, Revelation 1:17, 2:8, and 22:13. I believe most of them are probably doctrinally motivated to keep all of this information secret and away from you. The most cowardly and pathetic people do these things. That's why Sam Shamoon, just the last few days, talked about these texts, didn't bring up any of this stuff. Guess what? I wrote about this in my Jehovah's Witnesses editions 25 years ago. I pointed out these textual differences. So much for Sam Shamoon being an honest person who learns and then actually either addresses the arguments or accepts the truth. We know this about them, and we know they're part of the Dragon Church. So don't expect facts and clear information, truth, to convince them. They have a whole other agenda. So protect yourself with the word of truth.